Whenever you look at best of series, whether they be a best of 5 or a best of 7, it's always very important to consider the momentum of the series. How does the series feel after game 1? How does the series feel after game 2? Was there a significant momentum shift after the initial game? And in this case, for the TSL2 round of 8, an absolutely crucial series between two of the heavy favorites to win the tournament, we do look at the momentum accrued throughout the series and say that, wow, game 1, IdrA really had a lot of momentum. You're the heavy favorite, you sweep the round of 16, you crush that first game against an opponent who goes Nexus first into DT drop, a very abusive, aggressive, cheesy build, and you say to yourself, man, I'm in the driver's seat, I'm feeling good about this one. Neo Tornado's on the docket, I'm going to crush this game and then it'll be 2-0 in my favor. That's what the Kraken was thinking. Well, he made that command center in game 2, accidentally canceled it, knew he was too far behind to win and had to leave. A lot of people, if they accidentally canceled that, would have stuck it out and played it out. Guys like Rhett or Vibe, they would have been more likely to stick it out. But IdrA, known as an emotional player, a guy who was never going to waste any time staying in games too long, he just said, fuck it. There's no way I can win. I know I canceled my command center against a guy like Nony. He is going to have the advantage over me to the point where I'm just going to get really irritated if I lose. And you sort of get to that point if you're a pro gamer where you know what's too far behind to win. You know whenever you're in a position where, okay, I'm dead, and if I stay in the game, I'm just going to get really angry with myself because I know that, okay, I made the CC, I canceled it. Now, basically, when the follow-up push hits, my economy is going to be way behind, and I'm just not in a position where I can win. Now, for me personally, it's incredibly vexing to cancel your first expansion like that, and economically damning, sure, but I would have stuck it out. I would have stayed in the game and really tried to do something, whether it be just immediately remake the expansion or try to go for like a bio tank all in, but IdrA said, no, forget it. I've played a million games. I know where I'm at. I know how good Tyler Washaleski is, aka Nony. I'm going to tap out. So then it goes 1-1, and you've really lost momentum, and you get cheesed out in the third game on a weird map by a proxy build, and holy crap, you're one game away from losing. As a Zealot comes out here, and this is a proxy gateway. This gateway sort of by the third base of IdrA on destination, that left side third. And IdrA's in a position here where Nony is absolutely trying to cheese the crap out of him. He manor pylons him here. He's going for proxy gateway, went for proxy robo last game, went for an eco cheese into DT drop in game 1, and his Zealot and probe is in the base of the Kraken, and IdrA really being put through his paces. The probe dies, which is good micro because the probe is a legitimate S-class unit that's incredibly fast and has way more range than you would ever think. And IdrA trying to macro this factory, get it going. He has the Marine hammering away at the Zealot, but 2 Zealots versus 2 Marines, yeah, that heavily favors the Zealots. IdrA pulling some SCVs, trying to trap the Zealots. This is the micro you have to do against Proxy Gate Zealot. You can't let the Zealots gap close in on the Marines. You have to have SCVs tank. SCVs have 60 HP in this game, and they have 45 in Starcraft 2, so they're a little bit better at tanking. And I remember when Star 2 first came out, LZ Gamer played Terran. He was doing a lot of Marine SCVs all-ins, and he called the SCVs in StarCraft 2 linebackers because they originally had 60 HP too. That was one of the first big nerfs to Terran TVZ early on, as the Zealots are screaming down upon the Marines. IdrA trying to kite back, microing at SCVs too. A Zealot goes down, and whenever you have a supply depot and barracks right next to each other, the Zealot can't fit through that, and you can park your Marines in that little crevice, and that is one of the main ways you defend against this build, is you have your SimCity in a position where your racks and your depot are next to each other, and then you can hide the Marines in between them, and the Zealots can't reach you. Factory done here for the Kraken. He's getting a Vulture out, and these top-end pro gamers are able to deduce that, okay, that Zealot got there really heckin' quick. It's proxy. Goon range on the way here for Nony, and the Kraken scouts this proxy gate, and a Goon is out here. He doesn't want the Goon to live, but a Dragoon versus a handful of Marines and a Vulture, if kited properly, the Dragoon is going to be the unit that is favored there. But with another Vulture coming out, Nony picks off a Marine, and he's sort of in this position where he knows he can't really stand and fight, but he really wants to protect this proxy gate. Whenever you're a Protoss player going for a proxy gate like this, if your Terran opponent kills the proxy gate, it sort of inhibits a lot of the pressure and backstabbing you can do. As the pylon goes down there, the second goon goes down, and Nony only has one more goon, but now he's in a position where the thing that he really invested a lot in the early game is not going to be able to help him. Good goon micro there from Nony as he's making another goon at home as well as another gate. IdrA working on a siege tank, and this was excellent cheese defense from IdrA, is absolutely textbook the way he positioned his Marines between the racks and the depot. Excuse me. And then after he took control of his base, he went and took high ground control and went and found the proxy. See, a lot of players would be tempted to, after they held the rush, just sit at the top of the ramp. Well, you really do have to go find the proxy gateway and shut it down. And IdrA is in this position where he's killed the gateway, he's limited what the Protoss can do, and because he held the cheese, he's looking in a pretty good spot. He has started to expand on the high ground. Great move to take that on the high ground, because pretty good chance that you're going to be follow-up all-in or follow-up pressured in some way, and it's just so easy to lose that if you make it on the low ground. The amount of risk versus reward to making that CC on the low ground as opposed to right on the high ground on that corner there, it's a night and day difference, folks. That's the sort of intelligent macro decision that IdrA was known for. IdrA, sometimes wrongfully maligned, is an overly robotic player who just did the same thing thoughtlessly over and over. Now, he was a very mechanical player who lacked creativity that would grind his opponents down with his macro. As you see, beautiful unit positioning there from IdrA, having his Marines and his tanks on the high ground. And Nony is doing a little bit of proxy gates mid-map. So Nony just been incredibly cheesy this game. He's getting a Citadel. Who knows if that's going to be for legs or for DT. Now, there was this build called the Anytime build where you would go for, it was one proxy gate if I recall correctly, but essentially the Anytime build was you would proxy a gate or two out on the map while you were getting a fast DT off one base, and you would use the proxied gate to make a DT, and essentially it was just a way to make your DT rush quicker. But with an SCV rummaging around the Protoss base, IdrA's going to see the Citadel, his natural is finished, and he's getting an eBay. Notice that the eBay was pretty much already done before he scouted, and again, we see Templar Archives here for Nony. So the Dark Templar, the Invisible Men, some of the best units in the whole game. And this was a decision that Nony elected to go for in Game 1. That was a fast expansion DT drop. This is a cheese build that goes into more proxied gates, and it looks like he'll try to rush DTs out of those two proxied gates. And Nony is trying to stop this expansion from going down. Siege tanks out here for the Kraken, a turret being made as well, and the ranged goons are going to try to snipe these tanks. Repair going down on the tanks, but two tanks on the high ground for the Kraken are going to juice the majority of the goons, and IdrA suddenly is way ahead. Because in a push like that, if you're Nony, you're really looking to knock down the tank count to 0. And then when your Templar Archives finishes, you walk in with the DTs, because after you kill the tanks, you can kill the turret. And again, IdrA tries to repair, but the tank on the low ground goes down. So a nice little victory there for Nony to pick that one tank off. But with that turret up, and with those tanks on the high ground, good luck killing your opponent with DTs. Now, there was a little weird back path on destination, behind the natural mineral line, where you could do little micro tricks to slip a vulture through, but we didn't really see Protoss players able to utilize this on destination very much. Nony has expanded. He has more gateways on the middle of the map than he does in his main, and again, he'll push forward and try to pressure the Kraken. But those two tanks up on the high ground are worth their weight in gold, and Nony is falling behind here. You might look at this game, if you're somewhat new to the game, as you see DTs being built here, and say, okay, well, why don't people just build proxy stuff all the time? As we see mine research being executed there for IdrA. He wants to get the spider mines for his vultures. One of the best upgrades in the whole game. You get it every game. But you might be asking yourself, well, why don't they just proxy gates all the time? If he has the element of surprise, shorter rush distance, all these pros, why don't people do that more? Well, it's because if your opponent scouts it, they can just kill it because it's in the middle of the map and you can't defend it, and then you've lost significant production. So it's very interesting to me to watch this game and see IdrA not only defend the initial cheese, but move out here and see the DTs. As he has scanner, he was able to scan that, scans again, kills the other DT, as because he ran in and saw the fast citadel, he was able to deduce, like, okay, he's going to go for DT. And a lot of goons are out here, and IdrA's probably saying to himself, that's a lot of fucking goons. Like, he's either still on one base or his proxied gates or both. So IdrA is going to run around with the S-Class unit, the Vulture bike, poke around a bit, see if Nony snuck a base, see if he can find the proxy gates, and just scout around a little bit. Vulture speed, almost done researching, and IdrA's in this position where he's ahead, he's continuing to double pump workers, he has the army that scales better. Nony has gone for a proxy gate that failed. He went for a proxy gate DT follow-up that failed. And if you're IdrA, this is the sort of game that once you reach this position where you've held the first two initial cheeses, you're sort of looking around and saying, okay, I'm feeling good about this one. I'm definitely ahead. Toss has invested so much in the middle of the map and so much tech with the DTs where I'm looking good. I'm sitting pretty. I can deduce that there are, like, arbiters aren't about to be done. His vultures come in and lay mines beautifully. And observatory is out here, so this isn't the end of the world, but IdrA will run in and start to focus down workers, and this is one of the best things you can do if you're Terran. Get speed vultures in your opponent's base and lay mines down as you're running up, meaning that not only are you going to kill workers in the main, but if they try to wheel army back into the main to defend it, they're going to trigger the mines. And mines don't work on workers. Workers are considered floating, so you can't just lay mines in a mineral line like it's Herp Derp Starcraft 2 mine drop and auto win a game that way, as IdrA does find the proxy gates. But what you can do is you can lay the mines as you run up, and sometimes if you lay the mines close to the mineral line, the zealots that are trying to defend your vultures will trigger the mines and blow up the probe. So pylon wall being thrown up here by Nony as he's desperately trying to take a third base, and the Protoss player has essentially lost all map control. Those two gates surrounded by mines, they're essentially useless. And if we look at Nony here, he's trying to defend vulture harass, but every time he moves his goons out, more vultures run in, and IdrA did incredible cheese defense this game. And after his incredible cheese defense, he did a beautiful macro follow-up where he consistently got map control, scouted his opponent constantly, and was never in a position where he was going to fall behind, and Nony leaves without GG. So IdrA just crushes Nony there. Nony, like he has been for most of the series, very cheesy. Remember, Game 1, Nexus first into DT drop. Game 2 never happened, essentially. Game 3, one base, proxy robo reaver, and then that game, proxy gate into double proxy gate DT. So Nony's showing he has no desire to play a macro game with the great Gregager Fields, the macro machine. And for the leader and ace of the media clan, IdrA, it's just one more game to advance to a tournament where he was the heavy favorite, and casting the game originally, IdrA's team captain, Dan Artosis. But it's interesting to me that Nony is being so cheesy and is in IdrA's face so hard. Hey, that was sort of the book on playing IdrA. Like, you did really abusive, risky stuff. You hid stuff around the map. But this last match is going to be on Fighting Spirit. This is a map that anyone who's played even a little bit of Brood War is familiar with, so you don't want to miss it. Make sure you sub for more, guys.